Darby Botha, you have your hand up.
Again, from the co-chair of ProSet, my congratulations to the speakers of giving us this insight, if you like, and not only one of them, but all of them. What impressed me with the last speaker is the sort of integration of real life with maths, science, technology, engineering, etc., etc. Because that's important. If you teach mathematics, there must be a reason why you teach it. And to make sure that the teachers who teach those subjects understand why are they how are you actually utilizing mathematics in the world of engineering? And there's some very interesting examples, which I won't go into. For example, graphs, etc., to interpret mathematically what you've been experiencing or what you've been measuring in terms of, let's say, civil engineering. So I think that's a very important one. But what I would like to stress is with our audience today is that Stimulator is attempting in one way or another to integrate science, technology, engineering, and what are we as professionals doing with what the educators are actually teaching. And so I would encourage the educators, and obviously we have a program to go to schools to demonstrate the Stimulator, is to encourage all our educators to go into Stimulator and look at the interrelatedness, I don't know whether such an English word, of systems, etc., and where do they fit in, and to relate that to the maths and science. Now, this morning at our annual meeting, Richard Gunnarsson, who was leading up the Stimulator program for us, in fact demonstrated that the table of elements, for example, how does that relate to the real world? The real world, I mean our everyday world. So with that, I would just like to promote everybody today to have a look at Stimulator, to assist us at ProSet to enlarge Stimulator, and to just note that we need to make that link. One of the South African Institution of Civil Engineering presidents some years back looked at the ecosystem. He called it an ecosystem of things that work together, from education to practice to all the things that human beings relate to. And I've just been thinking I should send that to Jansi to distribute, and he's actually talking the same language. It must be integrated. You can't teach maths without knowing why do you teach maths and what that maths mean in the real world. Thanks Jansi, and thanks to our speakers.
Thank you very much, Darby, for giving us, as it were, a conclusion there, and also for raising the Stimulator. Everyone, that is stimulator.org. It's on the internet. Just go to stimulator.org. It's also an app that you can download from the Play Store. So please have a look at that. We are having a presentation on it tomorrow. Hintsa, you have a lot of questions, and please tell us about it.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just ask 2 questions, and if the other people want to respond to the others, they can. I don't want to hog, the discussion. The first question will be to my friend and colleague, Pata. I'm just putting it out there that we work together. So that it's not people will not guess, where we come from. I just want to ask Mr. Mahlabela what his opinion is on the mathematics core and mathematical literacy, department. Are they the same thing? Are they related? Is one a lesser cousin of the other? As an education, system, what it is, why was there a need to have mathematics, and why was there a need to have mathematical literacy? What are the benefits? I mean, we all know what the benefits of maths are. You can't do any STEM subjects like, computer science, physics, chemistry, biology to some extent without mathematics. I have always been trying to understand, because mathematical literacy is a new subject. So I hear. I did, in my days, I did what was called arithmetic. And then somebody told me, no, arithmetic is not the same as mathematical literacy. That's the one. And I know that Pata is an expert, and this is a very safe environment. He can tell us what the thinking was behind mathematical literacy. And Chair, this is directed to you. You've been in this environment for quite some time. And if I'm not mistaken, your retired DG, Dr. Mtwaha.
Yes.
Yeah. And I understand, having been involved with the NSTF in the early 2000s, I knew what the direction the NSTF was taking. The reason I asked Professor Metcalf, because he also was both, in the political and the educational. I mean, she is an academic, but she was also a politician.
Yes, indeed.
Is that I think we should be honest about these things. And not try and say, if the issue of separating the two, because it has come with a whole lot of problems, of separating education. Some people were saying it was too big and unwieldy. And then there were other things that came, but we can't in a public platform talk about those things that no, there were other interests. And here we are now, and we are having a plethora of problems in the issue, I mean, in the field of STEM. Oh, the other thing, there is a lot in a name, Chair. And in your opinion, are we going the STEM, STEM, the STEMI with innovation, or the STEM route as a country?
I will answer that. Thank you very much, Insa. Patasizwe, you've got the first chance to answer.
Okay, thanks, Yancy. Thanks, Davi. I'm also a very ardent fan of Stimulator, and in fact, I've learned a lot from it, because it does not just teach you about electricity. It actually takes you into the house and it opens up everything. And yeah, I wish everyone could have access to it. Dr. Mthane, I know it's always a critical thing and would ask difficult questions. And always, whenever I come across his questions, I feel like he could give me some time to go and think deeply about them. Probably I could respond more on the chat at some other time. But just to be simplistic, I would say one friend of mine would say he asked one top mathematician about 50 divided by half. And recklessly, the person said the answer was 2. And then when starting to contextualize it into saying, if you've got 50 cents, how many half cents do you have? Now I'm revealing my age. Then people say, oh, you wanted that. Sometimes I'm trying to say that context would make people see things differently. For me, I would say I did maths up to a majored in university, but I discovered that I did not know maths when I started teaching. So sometimes pure maths does not really, it's more, the focus is sometimes more on proofs and processes around, whereas in maths lit, it's more like at university we've got pure maths and applied maths. Probably it could be along those. So we should not really view them as, they may have overlaps, but their intentions as pointed by Elspeth earlier. The other one looks more into orientating people for life, which means focus is more around how you take care of your life things. For instance, I wouldn't know how to take care of my cell phone until I did maths lit. I would just use it anyhow, willy-nilly. But with the maths, we're more concerned with the theoretical parts of things. I would say that while we focus on social and physical knowledge, looking at discovering things, but more than anything else, we try to look at, I just go blank of the term, but looking at things that logical thinking and deep reasoning, more than, and whether that you do it in context, it doesn't matter in mathematics. Let me just keep it as simple as that. But I want to say that the two are different in terms of intention and in terms of what is done within the curriculum.
Yes. Indeed. Thank you very much, Padasiswe, and for those questions, Hinsa. Let me tackle the issue of the acronym STEM, STEMI, and STEAM. In STF for a long time, we tried to avoid using STEM. We actually used SET. So, and we still use it, science, engineering, and technology, with the assumption that mathematics is part of sciences. But STEM is a very general acronym. You can almost talk to anyone across the world and say STEM, and they will know exactly what you mean. So we settled on STEM when we're talking in the educational context. We then combined it with innovation by saying STEM and innovation, or SET and innovation, so that we don't have too many acronyms and we always write out innovation. But it's understood that a spirit of innovation can underlie everything that is done in SET or in STEM as well. So it depends on the context in which we're working. STEAM is a fairly new concept, and different people understand it in different ways. So I've even heard people thinking of STEAM, the A in STEAM as standing for accounting, whereas I think it's more commonly the arts. And there are people who advocate very strongly for the integration of arts in the learning of STEM. But then I think there is always kind of a hierarchy, like, you know, arts is in the service of STEM, whereas arts can also stand alone, and I think, from my point of view, should stand alone and be properly recognized and trained in their own right. So it depends on the context and the people you talk to, depends on who you ask. But I think in government and in NSTF, we've tended to talk about STEM and prefer that as an acronym. In terms of the other questions you've asked, it is very difficult. I think we will have to have the historians teasing out what exactly has happened with education in terms of political decisions. Obviously, the political decisions that have been made have had a huge impact on how education has developed in South Africa. I think that certain mistakes have been made. But one should also say, where do we go from here? So if we need colleges that train teachers and nurses, then those should be established, right? If it was a mistake to close them. if it was a mistake to integrate certain institutions, how can we make them work even if that was a mistake at the time? How can we go forward and work with them productively? Because it doesn't help that we go back and blame people. We all have to take hands and move forward. I'm sounding like a GNU. I'm sounding like a Government of National Unity, aren't I? We have come to the end of our time. In fact, we're a bit over the end of time. People are starting to leave. Is there anything burning that still needs to be addressed? Elspeth, I think I must give you the last word. Since you have given us such a wonderful overview of what's happening at the department, and I feel like the time that you had was too short.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jens, for the opportunity that you've given us, and I'm happy to see Dr. Mhlane. It's been a while. There's a lot of things that we are doing. We had a strategic planning at the DBE on last week, Wednesday and Thursday, and looking into the new GNU as you're looking at it, that they're planning around the 3 priority areas that they have identified as, creating employment and reducing poverty, and ensuring that the life improves for the ordinary South African. And so we're busy now developing medium-term development plan targets that will go into the annual performance plan, and that is the minister's performance plan, and also the MTDP targets for the next 5 years that we have to reach. So the work that we are doing now is continuing in the MTSF, is continuing until the 31st of March. And then we will, hopefully the whole planning of the GNU will have happened, and then we will then be given new targets to work for towards achievement by 2029. So thank you very much for the work that you are doing. We're trying. It's difficult, but we appreciate the support that we get from our strategic partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kimball. I really wish you much strength and good luck and good relationships across government to be able to implement what needs to be done. Davi, did you want to say something?
Yes, please, Jansie. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It just came to my mind that in order to be able to do maths and science, etc., you need to have a good grasp of language. And I don't know whether this subject is coming up today, Jansie, but what prompted me is that in various parts of the world, including the Netherlands, the proficiency of learners are decreasing in terms of being able to read, and that's a basic skill that we need if we want to progress into more in other subjects, including mathematics. And in some way or another, I think we should note this, and it's something that the NSTF and ProSet could possibly address at another stage, is the more basic skills that learners need to progress into the various subjects that they need to master going into our professions and to vocations. Obviously, it's no use that you cannot read a ruler and you want to become let's say a plumber. because you need to be able to measure and to be able to understand what you measure. So that reference to what is 50 divided by a half set me thinking, because the first thing you think is, oh, it's 25, and then you realize it's not 25.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a subject that I would recommend that we look at later at another stage, but it's a prerequisite for learners.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, across the world, youngsters and the reports I'm reading in the Dutch newspapers is that our affinity for our iPhones and our Android phones is actually harming us, because we don't learn to read a book, get context, and understand sentences. It's all short abbreviations of what we want to say. So I think in terms of education in South Africa, we'll have to look at that. In some schools in the Netherlands, they are now banning cell phones up to a certain age. And being old school, I actually support that. There should be as little distraction in the schoolroom as possible. But reading even a book or an article is very important. I think our colleagues around the table today will actually agree to that. You need to be able to comprehend and interpret, and you don't necessarily do that very well if you're not able to read properly. So that's a subject I think we've got to look at later as well. Thanks, Jansie.
Absolutely, Davy. I agree. I also think that artificial intelligence might make us even more stupid. That we depend on AI for summaries, to summarize for us, rather than reading the entire thing, like an entire book or an entire article. And so I don't know, things might get worse before they get better, but it certainly is worth addressing and talking about. So on that note, I want to thank everybody who addressed us today. Thank you very much, Ms. Kimbu, Tsotsetsi, Patasizwe, and the others in their absence. And thank you very much to all our attendees who numbered more than 100 at some stage. And we still have some people in the Zoom who have been listening to the discussion. Please be in touch with us. If you want to tell us anything, you have a chance to do so. You can send us an email. You can fill it in on your survey, which you will be receiving today. And once again, all the information, the presentations will be on the NSDF website, nsdf.org.za. And with that, I wish you a good rest of the day, and I hope I see you again tomorrow. Bye.